Hello and welcome to a CBK gaming review video, and today we're taking a look at Village Attacks by Grimlord Games, and we're joined with a couple of guests, LARP Coach, and we have a friend of ours who is a scholar in Greek history and ancient history. So we've made everybody sit and play Village Attacks today, and now we're going to look at what you think of it.
Great.
So as usual, we're going to be looking at this on a scoring of 1 to 10, and the first thing we're going to look at is the content of the game. So getting straight into it, we backed this on Kickstarter. We backed the full pledge, so we're actually reviewing everything, all the additional little add-on packs, the expansion that came with it, and the Horrors of the Sands, and the core game itself, along with the acrylic tokens that we got for this, which they released afterwards and do so at certain events. And the dice. So what do you guys think?
Overall, I really enjoyed playing the game. I mean, I've not really been into board games before. Visiting with CBK, got to know various different systems and beginning to understand the different nuances of gaming. This was a really fast-paced, enjoyable game. I really did like it. Having the complete set of additions really brought it to life. I mean, there are some issues that we'll talk about as we get into the numbers, but my experience was overwhelmingly positive.
So content wise, looking at a score out of 10,
are we talking about the actual materials?
No, so we'll look at quality of the materials separately. Okay. Content wise, it's the volume, and for me there is a lot that you get with this game, even at the price point that it was backed at.
I agree, you get an awful lot of materials, which really brings the game to life.
Yeah. What do you think?
Yeah, I completely agree. You've got a lot of content here, from figures to board pieces, even down to these caps that go on the bottom of figures.
They were really useful.
They were. There's a lot here. I can't fault really the amount of content you've got.
No, so I'm giving it 10 out of 10 for content.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned.
Well, I'm going to give it a 9.
9?
And I think I'd agree with Ken, probably a 9.
Okay. So we're basing our score really on what we've seen from other games.
Yeah.
So, no, that's fantastic. As we say, that you get a lot. So let's move on and have a look at the quality of the game.
Okay.
And that's the quality of the product, not the gameplay itself.
Understood.
So, and that's everything from the moulding to the quality of the card, which I must say that the card in this it's really good cardstock, really thin, really well printed. I've been very impressed with that, and the card itself, the card print is very good.
The quality of the materials is really high. The miniatures in particular, the detail is incredible. Not, as I say, not coming from a board games background, I was astonished at the level of detail that you could achieve with such tiny little figurines. And they're really fun and really mobile. There's a lot of life to them, which again brings the game to life. The cards themselves, they're robust and well printed. You can read all of the text. It has a kind of an oldie worldy scroll-like feel to it, but it's still very legible, which is important.
Yep.
I really enjoyed the score counter. That was a really nice.
So the dashboard, yeah.
Really nice visual cue as to how the game's progressing for both players and the bad guys. Overall, I think it's good. High quality.
Two things. First, I'm going to go back to the miniatures. I've been painting miniatures for 30 years. And I have to say, I'm itching to try and get hold of one of these figures just to paint it.
Excellent. Which one? Brilliant. You can take it away today.
But I think what hasn't been mentioned, I know you've had this game a few months now.
Closer to a year.
Yeah.
and the quality of what we're still playing on is still good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, okay.
And I think that's important to mention, because sometimes you buy these games with card bits and pieces, and they're getting dog-eared and flaky by the time you get to this sort of age. So no, really good quality.
On the subject of the miniatures, though, I would like to draw attention to the fact that
I'm going to put. I know what you're going to say, so I'm going to put an image up whilst you're saying this. So that'll be
the peasants do look a little bit like Dior perfume adverts. There's a lot of swishy hair and flowing dresses and pitchforks by Dior. And when you've got a lot of them on the board together, it looks a bit like the cast of Les Miserables frozen in tableau.
And it's obviously quite windy.
It's very windy inside this dungeon, yes.
Castle.
It's like an 80s rock video.
Actually, that's the first model for you to paint. And we've got a load of them.
I'll paint one, then you can copy the rest.
Yeah, not bad.
I tried.
But no, I do just want to say Grimlord Games have done fantastically with the models, because they put everything through quality control before they allowed it to go to mass production.
Yeah.
And I know they delayed the game being released because with the traps.
Yes,
wasn't it? And there was one that it came out of the mould, it got shown to them for quality, and they just flatly refused and said it's not what we want our backers to have. We want it to look much better than this. Redo it. And it
Huge
shows
respect
the
to,
love and the care they
Adam
put
and Mike
into this.
for the way that they,
Yeah.
the passion not only that they put into the project, but what they want to deliver to the end user. And having talked to these guys on a number of occasions, that they are absolutely.
The trap
top-rated
models are
chaps.
great. The trap models really are great.
Now this was an add-on. This wasn't what you got with the base game.
Right.
One of the things that we look at on games is what can we use these for in other games as well.
Yeah.
And we often will use, as Guy will have seen in Mansions of Madness, where we use the doors from Zombicide, Massive Darkness, and Conan to just create that 3D picture of the game. So these traps are going to be fantastic for us when we're doing role playing, and some of the models as well for peasants and
very
monsters,
very glamorous peasants.
Quality for me. I'm actually going to draw attention to something that for me is a bit of a negative, and
Sure.
It comes into quality somewhat, and within the actual gameplay itself, and that's the size of the actual map, the board itself. This is a game that when we explained to everybody that we were backing and that we couldn't wait for this game to turn up, it was this epic saga that we were waiting to play on a table. And it all feels a little bit let down by the size of the rooms themselves. It's quite a small game, and you look at it, it's not that small. But when you look at the board sizes,
bigger maps, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, as the game progresses as well, as you will discover if you play it,
when you play it,
the antagonists rack up really quickly.
Yes.
And very rapidly, this board becomes incredibly crowded, and if anything, it becomes a little bit cramped.
Yeah.
I'm going to go for the other point of view. Actually, having a smaller board with that many figures on it gives you that more sense of danger. You can't count the figures. You've got so many there, and if you've got a bigger board, they won't fill a room.
That's a good point.
So what we will put up is an image of UK Games Expo 2019. We went and spoke to these guys because they were previewing Everrain, which we'll do something about later on, which we cannot wait for. They were also doing some competition games of Village Attacks, and they were showing off. There was a company, we'll link in the description, that made a 3D boxes. They were cardboard boxes that were dungeon rooms.
Okay.
And you put them down, and you created a more three-dimensional table. They were bigger. They were the size, about similar size to a Zombicide board.
Could you make a comparison with one of these tiles? How big much bigger was it?
So it was almost the size of 4 of those tiles.
Okay, right, that's significantly bigger.
Yes, you played Zombicide with us with those boards. They're about that big, and it looked fantastic. And yes, you're right. Actually, in some ways, having a smaller board, you get that threat.
And the Zombicide's a good comparison because that board is bigger, but when the zombies start racking up, they really start racking up.
And these do. And I don't think that it would detract from the threat. I think visually it will be, it will pop a little bit more. For me, the quality is everything. As you say, the dashboard, the models are. I absolutely adore the models, and will be using them for other games. But I give this an 8 out of 10 on quality, which is still a good score. It's just suffered. It could have been higher. The tiles for me.
Yeah, I would agree. I'm going to give it an 8 for the same reason. It was almost up to a 9 because of the quality of the models. They are astonishing. But yeah, it just felt a little bit small. The rest of it is such high quality that you notice the fact the map isn't particularly big.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10 as well.
Now see, I'm going to go and say it's a solid 9. It's so close to bordering on a 10 for me. It's I agree what you're saying about the tiles. I also agree what you're saying about the tiles. So I'm on the fence about the size of the tiles. I have to say I am completely on the fence with them.
Yeah.
And that's what's teetering it between a 9 and a 10 for me. But the artwork on the tiles is lovely.
I'll give you that.
It's glorious.
And so for me,
if it was just a bit bigger, you'd be able to see
up.
more of it.
And that's what keeps it as a solid 9. Oh, it's so close. I want to say
just
a 10.
Go there. Just go there. Go there.
I can't find any fault. I'm going to go for 10.
Yay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to say quality. For me, yeah, it's spot on.
So, Mr. Lark Coach.
Yeah, I'm glad I persuaded you. I just wanted to very quickly touch on the bigger tiles. You said there were 3D tiles. Don't forget, with the walls up, they're going to feel more enclosed anyway.
That's true. Yeah.
Which brings me back to my point. I'm sorry, I'm going to go with a 10 as well for the quality. I cannot find a fault with the quality of this.
So far, the mean average scores are pretty good though.
Oh yeah, and
we're just picky about size. Does matter apparently.
Right. And moving on to complexity.
Right.
So, complexity for us is how difficult is it to learn? And the easier the game, the higher the score.
Yeah.
So, the rule book is very, very well written. One of the things I really like about this game is that the first adventure, the first story, teaches you the basics. The second story adds one extra element. The third story, another element, until it builds up, and you're very easily taught how to play this game. And I know you guys haven't seen. We started with a middle game rather than at the beginning because I think you needed to see all of those interesting mechanics with the traps and the heroes.
Yeah.
And I know, Guy, you've played this game before with us as well, so you have played the first one. And complexity for me, this is a very simple game to learn. Once you've got your head around the mechanics, once you've got your head around the dice and how those work, again, I'm going for a 9 out of 10 for the complexity.
Well, I learned in game from people who already played it. If I was reading through the rule book, I might have had a slower start. But because you had already explained to me and you demonstrated by your turns how it go, I could see how comparatively simple it was to learn. And once you do pick it up, it's very rapid. So I'm going to go for a 9 as well.
Okay. See, I'd go for an 8. It is an easy game to pick up, but there's still strategy involved in it. It is very cooperative because you have all got to decide who's going to go after which group of villagers. Is the castle heart under threat? Do we need to concentrate on that, or do we need to concentrate on the spawn point?
And I love that part of the game.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that part of the game. The negotiation between us, the planning, the cooperation, brought it to life. Considering the fact we're evil bad guys, we work as a team.
Well, you might be. I was misunderstood.
We were evil bad guys.
I can't think of any time that we've really had to reference the rule book for how does this work? It's a, I've forgotten how to do this bit because we're learning that we've referenced it. There hasn't been a, my God, my talent doesn't explain clearly whether I can do A or B. It's clearly done.
Absolutely.
There haven't been any sort of discussions on whether something, a mechanic works or not. It's all been in the rule book. And there's enough stories in the rule book that, like you've said, you start off, sort of scenario 1 is very basic, scenario 2 adds in another feature, 3 adds in another one. You're not then going to have 2 scenarios with everything and that's the end of the game. They've got so many scenarios in there that it doesn't matter that it takes you sort of 4 or 5 scenarios to learn all the mechanics.
Yeah,
there's then plenty of games afterwards.
Layers in understanding.
To carry on playing.
Okay.
I'm going to, again, slightly different tack. For me, I mean, I play board games with these guys on a fairly regular basis, and we revisit games on a fairly regular basis. I'm sure they'll be the first to tell you I don't remember rules.
Don't obey them.
Well, maybe sometimes. For me, what I enjoyed about this game was, I didn't remember the rules, but I picked it up within the first 5-10 minutes.
Yeah.
I played it twice before. I should remember the rules, but I hadn't. And Ben didn't refer back to the rule book once. I asked him a question, the answer was there. For me, that shows that he fully understands those rules. Also, the fact that I can pick it up very quickly shows that the rules can't be that complicated, but still fun to play.
I think this is another one of those games that is easy to learn but difficult to master. Depending on the difficulty that you want to add and all the different changes that you want to make it a little bit more difficult for yourself. So your score out of 10?
Mine would be a solid 9.
Okay.
That's some good numbers.
Yeah. Let's start to think about replayability.
Okay.
So, cooperative games, in my opinion, as much as they're the games that we prefer, we're drawn more to cooperative games because we like working together to overcome a common enemy, an AI, or something like Imperial Assault, where you're playing against one other player, so 4 players against one other, or Mansions of Madness, where you're playing against the app.
And we tend to come from a tabletop role-playing background, so we're used to working as a group and a team to fulfil a goal.
And I always find games like this, the replayability does suffer because of that.
Yeah. Okay.
However, the guys at Grimlord Games support this by new stories. There's another expansion, or I think it's actually a standalone game coming out on Kickstarter later on, which is in the same realm as Village Attacks, but I believe picks up in Japan, China. And
do you get to be the villagers?
It wouldn't be Village Attacks then. But I expect we'll be seeing things like Oni and other interesting undead and
Asian creatures,
demons and things.
That could be really fun.
We'll certainly be backing it. But to me, it always reduces that replayability. So on a game like this, we've played it a number of times. We always play games a minimum of 5 times to try and understand the nuances. This game we've looked at over 10 times because we want to understand the way that the game plays and that replayability. But we will never review a game without playing it at least 5 times. And I've enjoyed every game we've played. I really have. Sometimes some of them have been easier than others. Having a group of friends that we can sit and talk and we do cooperate. I can imagine this game being very frustrating if you're playing with an unknown group and people don't want to talk about tactics and go off do their own thing, and you will be finding yourself up against that frustration.
If you've got lots of rugged individuals around the table, it won't be as much fun.
Replayability for me, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10.
I'd agree with that.
Okay, I've only played the game 3 times, and each time it's been different with extra rules added each time, and for me that made it a good game. I've enjoyed every one. But at its core, you're still the monsters fighting off villagers. And I'm a bit concerned. I mean, you've played it 10 times, you're still enjoying it. When you've played it 20 times, 30 times, is that going to start wearing a little thin? I think it's counterbalanced by the fact there's so many different monsters you can play.
I was just going to say.
So I don't think it's a really huge problem, but it does concern me a little bit that at the end of the day, all you're doing is protecting the heart of the castle against the village. There are some slight nuances.
The
to those
stories. So
well.
that my original thought on village attacks was it was just going to be defend their hearts. As you saw today, with the idea that the castle heart actually started with one wound, and we had to increase that. The other one where you dinner, where you have to take 4 villagers to the kitchen, obviously to feed them a lovely meal. It's nothing bad at all, right? There's another one where the heroes come in to hunt a monster, and they will actually knock you out and try and drag you off, and you have to protect your friends. So you're absolutely right.
Monster
At the
buddies.
very heart of the game, at the very core of the game, it is a tower defender. But it's the stories and the way that they've changed some of the approach to it, and as long as they keep providing and supporting the game with different adventures, then I think that increases that replayability.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And as I say, I didn't want to be too negative about it. I think my concern is there's another game that we played a lot of. I'm not going to mention names here, but there was a game we played a lot of, and we were really excited. It was really great. And then we got to the point where we're just doing the same thing over and over again.
Yes.
And it stopped becoming fun at that point. And that did take quite a while to get to that point.
Yeah.
Yep. And we'll be reviewing that. And you'll be invited along to that review.
So, I mean, you've asked me about playability about games before, and I've always put that caveat in.
Yep.
If it looks like it's going to be the same thing over and over again, it doesn't make it a bad game, but it has the potential for getting a little stale after a while.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
It's one that's going to end up on the shelf for 6 months, get it down, have a game, back up for 6 months, rather than every couple of weeks, or we'll have a quick game of that.
So what would you rate it out of 10?
In my head I've got a 7, so I'm going to go with 7, I think. Yeah.
My experience is very limited. I've played this game once.
Yeah.
It was tremendously good fun, but I recognise everything that everybody around the table has already said. I've always found with even storytelling board games, they have an inherent limit to what they can achieve. They're not really adaptable beyond a certain point. And I'm going to agree with Guy on this one, and I'm going to give it a 7. And that's a respectable 7. Maybe in time I'll get a chance to play with some more, and that'll change my view.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's have a think about the fun factor.
It's good fun.
Yeah, that's a good start.
Yeah.
Well, all right, I'll start if you like. I mean, I said when I said about the playability and maybe it's going to get a bit boring. I did say before that it is good fun. It's one of those things I've enjoyed every time I've played, and you've said exactly the same thing. Every time you've played, you've enjoyed it.
Yep.
It is a fun way of looking at myths that we've lived with all our lives.
Yeah.
And we've always looked at it from the villager's point of view, or that we're looking at it from the opposite point of view.
Yeah, it's Frankenstein's monsters
it's an
perspective.
interesting twist on those stories.
It is, and the fact that they put the stories on the card and you can read about the monster.
Yes.
I really like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of etymological detail which is really valuable and really interesting, because you get this global perspective on myths, legends, monsters, demons, things that you just didn't know about. I didn't know anything about Native American monster hunting until I played a character today, and it was a fascinating little read on the back of the card. I thoroughly enjoyed that. I learned a lot.
Yeah.
Well, you know the name. You've heard the name right the way through your childhood, but don't know the ins and outs of this story.
Yeah.
You get to play them, you get to read their history, and also a lot of them you find that sort of the skills and the talents they've got relate back to their story as well.
Yeah.
So the Banshee's got a scream that she can do,
Yeah.
and it's right that that's the character that has that ability, and yeah.
Yeah. Considering the game mechanics are so simple, there's a lot of nuance available
Yes.
to each of the different monsters that you play.
Yeah.
And it's using the same dice and effectively the same stats, but still you can create something new.
Yeah.
As we've always said with these games, it's the story it tells with friends sat round the
Yeah.
table. And it's very easy to visualise this. And that's what I really enjoy about board games.
Oh.
And being able to see this ragtag group of
Monsters.
legendary figures,
Monsters.
yoga teachers.
I very much felt like I was the yoga instructor of the group.
As you will see on the screen now, the image that I'm putting up, this is what Ken was playing today.
And I was also spending an awful lot of time in the Green Hub, which very much began to feel like my kind of yoga studio.
So, fun factor, brilliant fun.
Yeah, I had a great time playing it. A lot of it's down to the people you play with, because I've got such great friends around the table, and it was such a well-designed game. The mechanics make it very simple and very playable. There's lots of space for you to negotiate and make plans and celebrate each other's victories and support each other's weaknesses. I'm going to give it a solid 9. I thought this was great.
Yeah. I'll join you on that. Solid 9 from me.
Completely agree. Another 9 from me.
Yeah.
But a solid 9 from me too. Yeah, it's a fantastic game.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's look at the overall score. So this is just how would you rate this game with all those scores taken into consideration,
Right.
whether you would actually recommend this game to a new player. Is it a gateway game? So for me, something like Zombicide is very much a gateway game.
Okay.
It's very easy to get into. It's very easy to understand. And this actually draws quite a few of those comparisons. I think it is an easy game to play. I think it could be used as a gateway game. Could get people into the games with figures and cooperative. It's cooperative style games, because a lot of people look at board games and think immediately of competitive games.
Yeah.
So, what do you think? Let's start with you. An overall score out of 10. What do you
Overall
think?
score out of 10. I mean, that's fairly easy for me. I enjoyed the game. I've enjoyed it every single time. Yeah, there's a few caveats I've put in, but I don't think they're actually going to be that much a negativity to the game. If not an 8, it's going to be a 9. I'm going to go 8. Only because I'm a pessimist.
Don't we know?
Now I'm going to go with a 9. My normal stance on a game like this would be to go for an 8, because that's my sort of, I've really enjoyed it, good game. I'm going to go with a 9 because on this one, unusually for me, I'm happy to do a whole scenario and then go, let's set up for the next one. Whereas normally something like Zombicide, I get to the end of the scenario and go, that was really good, really enjoyed it,
And step
we'll
away.
pick it up tomorrow or
Yeah.
next week or something. This, I mean, we have done it. We had a whole day where we just did scenario after scenario after scenario. So for me, it's, I'm going to say a 9 overall.
Okay.
I really enjoyed it. I've only played it once. I was in great company. I've laid out all the things I really liked about it and a few of the things which I wasn't so keen. If the maps get revised and the size changes to give us a bit more scope, I'll give it a 9, but currently it's going to sit on an 8.
So I'm exactly the same. It's a solid 8 out of 10, but with the revisions that may be made, with continued support by Grimlord Games, it's a 10. And I think we'll certainly be covering it.
Really good work, Grimlord.
Yeah. And we have the Grimlord. He's actually in game. There's the Revenant and the Grimlord, which is a town hero. So we love the fact that they've done that as well. So there you have it. Our review of Village Attacks by Grimlord Games. I think overall we absolutely enjoy this game and would highly recommend it. We would suggest that if you enjoy cooperative games, if you enjoy interesting models and any form of mythology, go out, pick up the core set and have a look at some of the expansions. I have a love of old Arabic history, and have done with the Thief of Baghdad, the old film, and a love of Persian history, much to your chagrin. Pre-Xerxes, though, we don't talk about that.
Don't get me started. Internet, don't get me started.
So the Horror of the Sands, I absolutely love those figures, and the addition of the jinn and those Arabic cultural things.
Yeah, it's nice to have something which is not so Eurocentric.
Yes.
Yeah.
And as we said, there's going to be another game coming out, which we will put a link to as and when it comes out. So all that's left is to say thank you for watching. We do really appreciate it. If you've enjoyed what you've seen, we'd really appreciate it if you liked and look to subscribe. We're trying to bring out a video every week. We do work hard to try and do that. And people following us, our subscribers, mean a lot to us. So any ideas, any games you'd like to see us reviewing, any games you'd like to see us unbox, we've got a lot of things coming from Kickstarter. Our next review is going to be Edge of Darkness, which we're going to have potentially both of you here to review and to play.
The new one to me.
Yeah, not for us. We've played it quite a bit, and we're also got a couple of other, as you mentioned, a game that you're aware we're going to be reviewing. So, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Cheers. Bye.